think we might see a shift in how IVs are used in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So currently the way IVs are used competitively, you want your HP and defense stats to be 31. Speed stat, depending on if you want something in Trick Room or not, you can adjust it. Some people like to have it at minimum speed possible, others like to have it just a tick above, which is very hard to get in game. But what I want to talk about today is the offensive stats, the attack and special attack. Traditionally, if something only has physical attacks, for example, then you would want your special attack EVs to be 0. The same goes for a special attacker not wanting any IVs into the physical attack stat. But why is that a thing? Well, there's two moves that are the cause of this, and the most popular of that is foul play. If your special attacker is weak to foul play, you typically don't want to have any investment in the physical attack stat, so you want your IVs as little as possible, because that can be the difference between a one-hit KO or a roll. And the move that can manipulate special attack for the opponent's advantage is power split. Though, to be honest, that's not common in VGC, never really has been, and I don't predict that in Scarlet and Violet it's going to be seen much at all. But it's typically good practice to set up your Mon just in case there would be, say, a power split Shuckle that wants your special attack. So the thing is, in Scarlet and Violet, it might actually be more beneficial to have your IVs maxed out on both the attack and special attack stat. And the reason for this is Terra Blast, because Terra Blast will take the strongest stat and use that for the offense. So for example, if your special attack is higher than your physical attack, it will take the special attack and Terra Blast will be a special attack. However, if you get, say, stat drops on your special attack, it should switch over to the physical attack since that is now higher. And I have an example here of where this could make a considerable difference. So let's take Arcanine. Arcanine has very similar offensive stats, and let's run it up against a Incineroar that's just Dark type, and also have it in Sun because it's kind of hard to read the red numbers here. But the Incineroar stats are the same on physical and special defense. And although we don't know the damage of Terra Blast and it's not on Picolytics, I'm just going to use Fire Blast and Flare Blitz for this example. So we have an offensive build on Arcanine because, assuming this is going to be your terastallized offensive build, this is kind of what it's going to look like. It is possible you'd be building something kind of like this, a Jolly max speed, max physical attack. Now, if you're running Terra Blast, it would be taking the physical attack stat here, which is currently sitting at 162. And compared to Fire Blast, the damage output is a good bit higher, but it feels like that should be a lot higher, right? So what's going on here is this is factoring an Intimidate drop from the opposing Incineroar, and this is also a minimum IV special attack with a special attack dropping nature. The difference is about that much. Also, Fire Blast is not as strong of a move as Flare Blitz. If, for the sake of calculations, we moved up its damage to 120 power, this is what a move of the same damage would look like in this scenario. The thing is, Intimidate's very common to see, so it's a very likely scenario where your physical attack would be hurt a fair bit by this Intimidate drop, but it's still higher than the special attack right now. If we adjust the IVs here from 0 to 31, Fire Blast and Flare Blitz actually do the same damage. If both of these moves were actually the same base power, the damage output is identical. And we know from Cerebi that dropping one stat is basically a 33% debuff if it is dropped one stage, which is the amount that Intimidate drops. So if you actually calculate the Intimidate drop on this build, the attack stat becomes just slightly above 108. So the stats become the same. But what happens if you're not actually running Jolly? What if you want to run, say, Naive, where you lower the special defense instead of the special attack? Suddenly, Fire Blast is doing a lot more damage than Flare Blitz is in this scenario. And even if we drop Fire Blast down to its normal power, it is actually doing more damage in this scenario still, by a few percent. What that means is, if you're running a Naive Nature Arcanine, that's 252 on attack, and the only investment in special attack is IVs, when you are intimidated, Terra Blast would switch to a special attack, because now your special attack is higher, which in this scenario, it is going to be more optimal to have the max IVs on the special attack. That is, of course, assuming the thing you're attacking has equal defensive stats. And the thing is, if you're running this physical, I think it would be a good idea to set up your EVs to where once you're intimidated, Terra Blast switches to special attack. because that suddenly gives you a lot more flexibility in this scenario. Because you would still have Flare Blitz for the physical offense in case you're fighting a special wall. But now you could switch over to Terra Blast, which is, again, not in Picolytics, which would now be a special attack so that you could hit onto, say, a weaker special defense stat. And I think that flexibility is actually kind of useful to play into and is a lot better than just leaving this at 0 because you're scared of a Shuckle power splitting you. Because now your mixed offense becomes a lot stronger. Now, if your Pokemon's physical attack and special attack have a great bit of variance, even just something like Incineroar where it's 80 and 115 versus Arcanine's 100 and 110, it would take a fair bit more drops on the physical attack stat for the special attack to kick in for Terra Blast. So it is less useful in these cases, but if you're running Terra Blast on something, it would still be a nice to have that weaker stat as high as possible, even if you are running like a nature that drops, because you're far more likely to run into a scenario where you get intimidated and charmed so that you're down a whole lot on your offense versus running into power split and having your already somewhat low special attack being taken, and that the extra few ticks from the Ivies would suddenly make it to where a Shuckle can one-shot your Incineroar. That's a much more specific case, and I think that's a lot less likely, so I don't even think that should be played into anymore, and I think it's just better to have the special Ivies as high as possible now, even if it is a physical attacker. But this is really only relevant if you're running like a mixed attacker or Terra Blast. Though if you are running a special attacker, you still have to consider foul play, and I think that is going to be more dependent on how strong foul play is into that mon, because as we see with Shadow Rider here, it makes quite a big difference to have as low IVs as possible on the physical attack so that you can actually have a chance to survive a foul play. So while I think it's going to be Pokemon specific, I do think there's going to be a lot more that are just running max IVs on the attack and special attack, and that is going to be the most optimal thing to do for certain Pokemon, which also means training becomes a lot easier for certain Mon. You just bottle cap all of the stats and you're good to go. So let me know if you guys have any other ideas for how this could be beneficial in the format. Let me know in the comments below. And that's going to be it for this video. I'll see y'all next time.